Hello, I'm Amar, and this is my sign name. I would like to welcome Imran, and this is his sign name, to this Deaf What interview. Thank you, Amar. Hello, thank you for joining this interview. How are you doing? I'm doing fine, fantastic. Wonderful. How have you been coping since the COVID-19 pandemic began? It has been a shock because it impacted many people negatively. For me, I felt I had more work during the pandemic after they shifted it online to Zoom. There's different signs out there for Zoom, but this is my preferred sign, out of habit. I've been focused on work mainly since the opportunities were accessible. Back then, I had to physically drive to places. With Zoom, it meant my opportunities were more frequent. I could have Zoom meetings back to back without any large gaps of time where I would normally spend that time driving. I've been focused on work. My work-life balance shifted with more work and less time for myself. But we won't have opportunities like this again. COVID will be gone hopefully in the near future, which means I need to grab as many opportunities as I can before we reach post-pandemic life. My mental health has been fairly stable. It's important to maintain self-care. And I recognize that. I go out for walks. My partner encourages and reminds me to keep work-life balance. When I'm working and there's time for a break, I'll go out for a walk. I tell the students that breaks mean to turn off your eyes and leave the screen, go for a walk, come back feeling refreshed. That's a good plan to have. I agree with you. As time went on, my friends kept in touch and kept me company. It's nice to keep in contact with people, and I needed that relationship with humans. Self-care, sleeping well, and keeping an eye on work-life balance, it was important for me to maintain my mental health. There are still positives and negatives to COVID, like for example, many people have unfortunately passed away to COVID. There's opportunities to look within. Like instead of having a fast-paced life, COVID brought attention to the fact that life is short. We have to be continuously aware, change, etc. For me personally, I feel it's been a positive experience for me, with minimal negative experiences, especially with my mental health. In your biography, you mentioned loving to travel, and the fact that you've lived in different cities. I'm curious, what country have you enjoyed the most, with sentimental memories? Traveling? There's two countries in mind. Cuba, and this is the sign for Cuba. The people there. I'll explain more later. India, this is the sign. There's 3 different signs for India. I grew up wanting to go to India, but my parents made excuses not to go. That it was because of the bugs there. It wasn't until I was invited to a friend's wedding in India, and I fell in love with it. It felt like it was my home, spiritually. The people there were so thin, and I was visibly larger than most people. In their culture, in their eyes, I was rich to them. They saw me as rich because I could afford meals while they had less access to food because there were limited resources. I can feel the hairs on my arm raising now. For Cuba, what drew me was because there was no internet. The people there had no contact with the outside, and they were happy. For my birthday, I went to Cuba, which meant I was disconnected from the outside. I had no connection. My friend had asked me what they could do on my birthday, but all I wanted to do was be in Cuba alone with peace and quiet. They did ask if I wanted to go out and eat, but it was about the quiet for me. Do you have any advice for ASL teachers like me, or other youth who are interested in teaching ASL, or expert ASL teachers? Any tips for us? In the time that I started teaching, I haven't had anyone come up and observe my teaching, which made me nervous. But eventually, I thought it was nice to have my work be observed, see my teaching style, copy and share. My goal is to share. Maybe they learn. Maybe they might have different ideas. I'm not perfect, and maybe their way is better. There is a variety in needs, and so that's what's nice about learning from feedback. A boss had made comments that I signed a little fast, so I slowed down. It's important for us to accept criticism in order to improve, and also to keep an open mind. To improve teaching, you have to accept criticism. If you receive no negative criticism the entire time you teach, you won't improve. It is important to keep an open mind, and you will grow. Take workshops. There are more ASL courses out there. I think it's also important to know the linguistics of ASL, and that will help you teach better. That would be my advice. You also work as a deaf interpreter. Do you have any advice for deaf interpreters like me, or other youth, and general people who want to be a DI? Do you have any tips to share? It seems that I am the only IBPOC deaf interpreter in Vancouver. We need more. I know one or two interpreters who are skilled, but they moved away. I want to see more IBPOC deaf interpreter circles. I hope in the near future there will be training for IBPOC people in a safe space. We have our skills. For example, an Indian, Asian, Chinese, or Philippines person interacts with another similar person skillfully because they share the same experiences. We need more of that. My advice for folks wanting to get into DI is to attend and observe different DI works. Learn from them. Expose yourself to them. Once you have a good idea of how it works, you can consult using their works as part of your training. If you don't learn from others, there's a loss in learning experience. It's important to see the variety in works and different kinds of English to ASL translation. You analyze it, in the same concept as learning ASL socially. You watch and learn to be able to express yourself. It's the same, you don't ignore it. IBPOC are already skilled DIs. They've already had DI habits ingrained by translating texts for other deaf folks. All deaf people have it ingrained, but we need more IBPOC interpreters. We don't have any at my workplace, so we want more. Opportunities are hopefully plentiful in the near future, and I can't do all of the work. I want you to take it on a little and share it amongst folks. Maybe it's a great fit for you. Maybe it isn't. I want to see an expansion in the community, a bigger pool of IBPOC deaf interpreters. It is important to ask deaf interpreters. I would love to share resources. I'm not going to gatekeep. Yes, that is a good thing to share. That's good advice. Thanks for sharing. It's important to expose and share resources, to practice, find opportunities, and mentorship. I agree with needing to make a bigger pool of IBPOC deaf interpreters for the exposure and cultural recognition and everything. Right, absolutely. I'm curious. Is there anything you would like to share with the hearing world? Yes. I've been wanting to tell hearing people that deaf interpreters and ASL teachers are experts in our profession. And it's important for them to respect us and to not take over. Ask for advice because we know. We've taken on the work, and it's not good for them to take over. It's been an issue of them taking over or not letting the deaf community know. It's important to let us know, and we want collaboration. We need the hearing people's support, not to be pushed away. Tell us. Plus, we've been oppressed for many years now, so it's time for a change. I want to see us grow. It is important for them to work with us, share information, with a good attitude. They need a good attitude rather than to be stuck in a cycle of a bad attitude. We need to be positive for the future. That is what I want to tell them. Let us take over and support us in doing so. We will also end up supporting you. It takes both of our communities working together. That's good advice for the hearing world. I like your comments. Are there any words or thoughts for the deaf community that you would like to share? That's a good question. That would take some thinking. I've noticed that IBPOC, well, yes, in both deaf and hearing communities, the hearing oppresses the deaf. IBPOC people are oppressed, and we deaf IBPOC are double oppressed. They have privilege. It's time for them to recognize that we are here. We want work. We want lives. There's an imbalance of power, and we need equity. Do they truly understand the experience of oppression? Then don't do it to us. Enough. Support us. In order to be supported, you need to support us too. They oppress us like they don't understand what it is that hearing people do to them. Enough of individual thinking. We need to work together to give people opportunities, not only for them, but for the deaf community. Individual thinking will hurt them, and you don't want hurt and negativity. We need positivity. If we get hurt, the hurt will continue. Break the cycle and stop. Create new beginnings. It's 2021. It's time for new beginnings, and that's what I want to tell the deaf community. Yes, I totally agree. Thank you for stating that. I appreciate it. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we wrap this up? I think I've answered all the questions you may have. Stay safe, stay healthy, stay positive. And if you want to live positively and want to see positives in the community, we can live positively. Negativity and drama can be pushed aside. We want new beginnings. Thank you, Imran, for joining us for this Deaf What interview. Thank you. I appreciate your commentary, your expressions, and your lifelong experiences. Thank you again for joining us. I'm so glad. No problem. Take care. Take care.